Hello, my name is Isabella. I'm a tarot reader and writer, and I'm here today to do a little 3-card reading for all my beautiful water signs out there. Hey! We are at the end of the year, so this is kind of like a 2026 reading, although of course you can watch this at any time. So let's get into it. I feel like there's a very kind of straightforward message to this reading, and I also feel like it's definitely a timeless message for my water signs out here. Because I feel like its sort of thesis statement is, we're gonna get there, but it has some, maybe the topic of the essay, let's start there, is the, pros and cons of using suffering for art, right? Okay. Don't get scared. It's okay. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to suffer. It's just saying, I think it might be a good idea to be aware of the way that sometimes masochism and art can go hand in hand. And I don't literally mean like the ultra violence kind of like, I mean, but more about how like you can get in negative emotional patterns that can give you endorphins. And I kind of just talked about this in the earth sign reading a little bit. But this to me has more to do with like sort of trauma farming yourself, right? Like holding on to painful memories and romanticizing them because they, one, can be kind of thrilling, but also you find like them to be a really immediate channel to tap into a creative frequency or a frequency of productive self-expression. We have the magician right here. So this is that like great creator, right? Like this is that magic power of creating something from nothing when we make art, right? We bring something immaterial out into the material world. And next to the magician, we have 3 of swords and the 6 of cups, right? So the 3 of swords is like that kind of like the Buddha type realization that life is suffering, right? And it's whatever experience that you have. It doesn't even need to be like that serious. It can literally be like your mom didn't buy you the right candy bar that you wanted at the store. It can be that simple, right? Like of just feeling like, oh man, like I'm not going to feel happy and get exactly what I want all the time, right? And the 6 of cups is like that childhood nostalgia, comfort, safety, but also like all the really intense stuff that happens in childhood, right? And the way that things are heightened for good and for bad, right? Like they're heightened in the way that when you're a child, you see the world in this like very technicolor way, and the whole, state of being of understanding nothing lends to a really interesting experience of, moving through the world as an adventure, right? But also things are heightened in the sense that they can be extra painful when they maybe don't need to be, like that example, like I said, of like not getting the candy bar you wanted. Like not a big deal obviously, but for a child sometimes that can feel like life and death or whatever, right? And I think it's a lot more complex than that with both of these cards, right? um but I feel like it's speaking about kind of being careful about being too reliant on finding your creative inspiration in the same place that you go to relive like painful childhood memories, I guess. And I'm saying this, I feel I'm not a water sign, but I feel called out right now because I've been going through like another, like I was obsessed with My Chemical Romance, like literally would give my life, like it was crazy how obsessed I was with My Chemical Romance as a 13-year-old. Very impressionable, right? And I'm every couple of years I like revisit them and I'm like, damn, like this is like the best album ever. But I'm really getting back into it now, and I've just been having some situations, especially when listening to this album, where I feel right back to being like an angsty 13-year-old. And, you know, I'm around my family a lot, right? And so I found myself literally feeling in so many ways like exactly like I did when I was 13. And, you know, I was just reflecting on that era of my life and how it set the stage for a lot of other things that I would go on to be interested in or go through or whatever, right? And it's so interesting how it really did like hit that sad girl vibe, right? And I really do love I love that, right? Because even as an adult, like, you know, I try to be self-aware, but I still love like having an emo fucking moment, right? And that kind of catharsis, right? And I've been reminded so much lately, like through this album and music and the memories, like how intoxicating it really is. Like it literally will get your adrenaline pumping or like your heart pumping, going into these really intense depths of yourself and kind of tapping those same sort of like inner teenager, inner like hormonal angsty, you know, not understanding the world type of energy, because we all kind of can feel like that sometimes, you know, even as grown adults. Like I would be surprised if, like, when I'm an old lady, I'm not, like, I don't need to have a My Chemical Romance moment every now and again, to that day. But my point in that being, it can be such a high, like, this is going to be really corny, but, like, going to those depths can bring you such a high that it gets really addicting, right? And when I say I've been looking back on, like, how that led me to things, I definitely, yeah, it definitely attuned my taste to like the most cathartic shit possible, right? And it's the argument too of like, does that make it worse or does that help, right? Like, does it help to have something like reflected back to you that's just as like angsty and like in pain as you feel? Or, you know, is it like causing you to dwell in that, right? And honestly, I'm trying to figure that out for myself just in life. And it's kind of fun, like lately. And it's kind of funny that this came up. Um, but I definitely think that there's like a balance to be struck with it. And the magician, I think, is walking like on that tightrope and like that electric wire. And any wrong sort of move, he could be like, zzz. And I think it's kind of like that sign that it really is about striking that very careful balance and also maybe prioritizing like the expression, the artistic expression over the feeling. And I mean, yeah, I don't think I'm going to solve the question of like, does great art require suffering or does suffering contribute to art? I don't think I'm going to solve that in like a 15-minute sign reading, but I think it's saying like this is something to think about and to consider the ways that might affect your life, but specifically in the way that you express yourself. And also, it's like if you have never had a My Chemical Romance moment or something along those lines of like letting yourself kind of get guided into this place of catharsis, even if it feels maybe like kind of juvenile or like not serious, maybe something to try. You know, we all it can be very productive. But again, not prioritizing like the feeling, prioritizing what kind of gets awakened through that feeling. Like having that greater sensitivity for all kinds of passion, even like painful things, is valuable. Like, we're on earth to have experiences, period, not just pleasurable ones, which is funny because this is literally sorrow and pleasure. That seems like some kind of like knuckle tattoos you'd see on like an old biker, right? But sometimes too, like there can be pleasure in the sorrow. And I kind of think that's my whole point with like My Chemical Romance tangent, and how it can kind of be like addicting in the way that like touching a sore tooth, you like can't stop, you know, sometimes. I think because it does make your brain get like a weird little like shot of endorphins. Um, but also I feel like it's like either way, there's something to be produced from this, whether it's you need to kind of awaken this within yourself and go into those depths and like really, you know, get in there looking for treasure and seeing what comes out, even if it means like you have like an ugly cry to a song you loved when you were 13, or it means like, okay, I need to like get out of this a little bit so that I can create something out of it, so that I can like create something that will, you know, like pleasure from the act of creating or the act of enjoying your creation. But either way, I feel like there's a creation at the end of the line, and it's kind of easy to miss it if you don't tread these waters very carefully. What's that quote? It's like the same waters in which the lunatic drowns, the mystic plays with the light, or something like that. It's very that energy, right? But, you know, it's definitely worth taking seriously and trying your hardest with, you know, like trying your hardest, like I said, to not get like swept away with the currents, and focusing on producing like a great work of art. And, you know, if you're not an artist, just a great, you know, life for yourself, and a greater sense of like self-knowledge, and or just, you know, how to experience life in a pleasurable way, or how to make the most out of sorrow, right? Like these are all themes I feel like are really coming up for my water signs out there. And I feel like this is, again, stuff that you kind of naturally deal with anyway. So maybe this is like a time of really finding clarity about that and being able to move on to other questions and challenges and adventures. So that's it for you, my water signs. I hope you have a great 2026. I hope 2025 treated you well. And if it didn't, I hope next year is even better. So, bye.